UFC 273 is in the books, guys, and today I predicted that it was going to be one of the best fight cards of the year, and it was absolutely fantastic. Some people out there may try to tell you it was a boring fight card, but that is because the last two fights of the night did not live up to the hype compared to the third one. The third one was Burns and Chimaev that everyone was convinced was the true main event, and it lived up to the hype. It is potentially a fight of the year candidate, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But first, we're going to start with the prelims, and then we're going to work our way up to the top. So, prelims, we had Mike Mallet absolutely show his hands off and just one punch Mickey Gall. He got destroyed. Absolute knockout power. It was great and very impressive by Mike. Mickey Gall's probably going to find his way out of the UFC now, I would imagine. Raquel, Pennington, and Aspen Ladd, it was a pretty close fight, I thought. I had Raquel winning it, as did the judges. At the end of the day, Aspen just doesn't have what it takes, I don't think. She doesn't seem to be there all mentally. I don't want to try to tear her down or anything, but she had such a great winning streak going for her. She starts missing weight a little bit. And it just doesn't seem like she's all in right now. If she can get all the way back in, she can probably climb back up. But right now, losing to someone like Raquel, who's always been kind of like that person that's in the middle of the rankings, it's just not a good look for Aspen. But Raquel looks sharp as always, and her striking's always good. Anthony Hernandez and Josh Fremd, it ended up being a brawl. Potential fight of the night. These guys really wanted to get it. I don't know if they ended up getting it or not. I haven't seen who the awards have gone out to, but they really just brawled for 3 rounds. There's not much other I can say than they just brawled, because it wasn't great striking or great grappling. There was a little bit of grappling, actually a lot of grappling involved, but potential fight of the night. It was a very good fight and very underrated. I didn't really know much about these two, and I know a lot about UFC fighters, so it was an exciting fight for me, in my opinion. Iangary and Darren Weeks honestly turned out to be extremely boring. Probably one of the most boring fights of the night for someone like Ian who wants to talk. And some people are saying he took his first L when he was on the microphone afterwards because it was so bad. But he keeps doing what he's going to keep doing. He's a good striker until someone tries to take him down and really prove himself that he can be a multi-skilled fighter. I don't think we're going to see anyone really beat him, because it looks like he can win pointing. He point fighted this fight against Darren, who's also a solid striker, and at the end of the day, it wasn't anything special, but you got the job done. And then on to the main card. We had Mark Madsen and Pickle. Like I thought, it was going to be a decision. Almost every fight went decision tonight, I think, but it ended up going to decision. It was a solid fight, pretty entertaining for the most part, which I kind of thought it was going to be, because these guys are both high output people, and it was entertaining, but I wouldn't say it was anything special. I thought Mark won pretty handedly, in my opinion. Mackenzie, Dern, and Tessa Torres. This fight went exactly how I predicted. Went down to a split decision. I thought it was going to be extremely close. It was a -120 and +100 odds, so it was supposed to be a very close fight on the books, and it was. At the end of the day, Mackenzie Dern showed she did get a little bit better in the striking category, but she did almost get Tessa Torres out of there in the second round with some really nasty submissions. She went for 7 different submissions in round 2, and like I said earlier, Tessa Torres has a lot of experience, and that experience paid off for her. She ended up losing the fight in the decision, but without that experience, I guarantee you 99% of people would have been submitted by Mackenzie Dern. Absolute stud on the ground. That's pretty much all I have for that fight. It was a solid fight, but I thought Tessa Torres was the person to bet on that one. I actually bet against my dad on that fight, and I actually bet for Mackenzie Dern. Me and my dad do $1 bets, and I took Mackenzie Dern tonight, and then I'll talk about the next ones who I took in those ones as well. But the only bets I really placed tonight were on Gilbert Burns, which is the next fight here. Gilbert Burns and Hamzat were electric, guys. It was such a good fight. Such a good fight. And like I said earlier, fight of the year, potentially. It was only a 3-rounder, so there's still a chance a 5-round fight that goes absolutely nuts could win it over it. But first round, Chimaev came out and basically really showed dominance in his size, got a couple takedowns, and once he got to Gilbert's guard, he pretty much is all right, let's stand back up, which I don't blame him. Gilbert Burns is probably the most deadly person in the entire MMA world that you don't want to be in his guard. So it looked like that was a game plan. A lot of people I'm seeing on Twitter are like, why didn't he just beat him down? Like, it looked like he got takedowns easy, blah, blah, blah. Well, those are casuals out there not realizing that Gilbert Burns could literally submit him in like 18 different ways from his guard. So you didn't want to be in his guard. He did good. Round 2, Gilbert Burns absolutely turned it on. Way outpointed him in this round. I think he landed almost 20 significant more strikes. It was an absolute fantastic round for him. Ended it with a ginormous right hook over the top that landed right on the temple and actually dropped Hamzat or Chimaev. Oh my God, I'm so bad with his name for some reason. But absolutely dropped him. And then after the round, he looked a little pissed off, and it looked really bad originally. It wasn't as bad as it turned out, but like he looked like he like tried to like slap him after the round in the face, Chimaev to Burns, and afterwards it didn't look like anything too bad, but it did piss off Gilbert Burns a little bit. It really did, because it did look cheap, but it wasn't too bad to the point where they took a point. So going into the third round, it was 1-1, and first half of the third round, it looked like Chimaev was going to get a finish. Gilbert Burns looked absolutely gassed and just done. And then Gilbert Burns turned it on in the second half of the last round, and he just started wailing on him. He landed some big punches, and I honestly thought this was going to be a majority draw. If there was a time for a majority draw, this was the fight. They absolutely kicked the crap out of each other, and I found it exactly even. I had round 1 to Chimaev, I had round 2 to Burns, and then I thought the first half of the third round went to Chimaev, and the second half went to Burns. It was such a good fight, but it ended up going to Chimaev. It was like I said, great fight. I don't think anyone loses any stock on this fight. Gilbert Burns' stock only goes up because the dude's an absolute badass for going after a guy that nobody else wanted to touch. And we learned that Chimaev pretty much has no chance against someone that has cardio that is going to hit him. Because people have talked about his cardio being like this ultimate thing that's so good and so impressive. I was not impressed. 3-round fight, he got absolutely winded, and I don't see him beating someone of the likes of Colby or Usman. Colby and Usman just have like unlimited gas tanks, and it's like not even fair almost. Somehow they have like the best gas tanks in the whole MMA right now. Last time there's been someone with that good of freaking cardio is probably like Mighty Mouse, because he never got tired. It's extremely impressive how good of cardio those guys have. So I don't see him having a chance against those guys yet. But they're saying Colby Covington and Chimaev is going to be the next thing. And Dana White wants to put it on the next ABC card because they know how crazy of a fight that's going to be. I don't know about putting Colby Covington on ABC because giving him a mic is a little bit sketchy. But be a great fight. It'd be absolutely fantastic. And I was super impressed by him. He got hit 119 times tonight, Chimaev. Significant strikes, and he's never been hit more than one significant strike. So, give it to him. He took it, he put it out, he got the win. I thought it was a majority draw at the end of the day, but great fight. Fight of the year potential. Not mad at the decision at all. Another controversial one here. We got Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan. Aljamain Sterling pulled it out today, guys, which not a lot of people saw coming. I told you guys today when I posted that video that I had this fight being way closer than the odds. I thought Aljamain was going to have a good strategy after facing him the first time, after winning a couple rounds and then gassing out, that he was going to change it up. And personally, he did. He took the first round a lot slower, and he pointed it out on 2 of the scorecards that he won the first round. I thought Jan won the first round, to be completely honest, but 2 of the judges had Sterling winning it, so it was close. It was extremely close first round. Second round, Sterling gets Peter Yan in one of the nastiest body triangles ever. Showed you how tough Peter Yan is by getting out of that. The fact that he got out of that round with 3 minutes in a body triangle with someone like Aljamain Sterling's grappling ability, insane. I don't know how he ended up getting out of it, but he survived the round, and then in round 3, he got back in it and still survived. So I had 2 and 3. I had 1 Yan. I had round 2 as a 10-8. None of the judges actually scored it as a 10-8 because he didn't do enough damage, but Aljamain completely dominated him for like 4 minutes. I thought it was an easy 10-8, but apparently it wasn't. They're so afraid of giving 10-8s to grappling. Grappling doesn't get enough love in MMA. You have to like beat the crap out of someone with your hands to get a 10-8. But he did show dominance and with the body triangle, submission attempts, and he did some pretty nasty ground and pound, and just really made Peter Yan look uncomfortable. So I had through 3 rounds, I had it 1 to Jan, I had 2-2 Sterling and a 10-8, and then I had Sterling in a third round victory as well. So then fourth round comes around, Jan wins fourth round, and then I had fifth round, Jan winning. I had it as a majority draw, which is kind of wild that there's 2 fights on here back to back that I thought could have easily been draws, because I had it as a 10-8. But those guys gave Sterling round 1, which I'm not saying it was a bad call by any means. I thought it was a really close first round, but I had it going to Jan. And I think a lot of people did, because a lot of people are angry about this decision. But at the end of the day, that is where MMA currently is. There's a couple of fights that you watch here and there, you're like, Jan, if this fight was to the death, is going to win. And he probably would have. That's like Colby Covington in his last fight against Usman. Usman looked a little bit winded after 5, and it looked like Colby could go 3 more rounds. It's like, it's just kind of the downside of MMA right now, because there's no fight to the death. And thank God there isn't, because we're not gladiators out in this hood. But man, that was a great fight. You can't go wrong with the decision. I thought it was a majority draw, though. I thought it was going to be 3 rounds to 3 rounds because of the 10-8 round, but it ended up being 3-2. So great. You get to see Aljo and TJ Dillashaw, which I know TJ Dillashaw is probably just praising the Lord right now, because he's coming off a big win off of, oh my God, why can't I think of his name right now? The Sandman. What's his first name? Whatever. The Sandman. Peter Yan also beat him. Corey Sandhagen. That's who it is. Corey Sandhagen. And Peter Yan beat him. And then, so they both beat Sandhagen. So now TJ is going to get the shot at Aljamain, and I'm sure he sees Aljamain as a much easier challenge than Peter Yan. So I imagine we'll see TJ take the belt for Aljamain, which I'm not putting Aljamain down, but I think TJ is a very tough fight for anyone. He's definitely a beast. And then Peter Yan and TJ, I would love to see. So also Triple C, Henry Cejudo, has gotten fired up over this tonight, and he says he's putting himself back in the pool of testing. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. And then for the final fight of the night, we had Alexander Volkanowski and Korean Zombie, and it really was just super one-sided. Alexander Volkanowski and Max Holloway, I think we have seen over the past couple years that they were just way ahead of everyone else. I think Volk got a little bit scared after his last fight, and he came out tonight and looked at his best he's ever looked. He looked okay against Brian Ortega. He almost lost to Brian Ortega on a crazy choke, but I think that scared him. I think he trained extremely hard for this. He looked the best he's ever looked, and he honestly, it ended up being a ref's decision on a KO TKO, and he even said in his so basically Herb Dean stopped it, but he even said in the press conference afterwards, or post-fight interview, was like, I felt bad for the guy, but it's part of the sport. Like, he just was really giving it to him. And Korean Zombie, shout out to him. He is tougher than he even needs to be. Like, he would have kept going. He would have went until he literally died, probably, because the guy can take a punch like no one's business. But Herb Dean had a great stoppage. No arguments for me. Great freaking card. Volk and Max Holloway is the only fight you can make off of that. If you ask me, we have to see it again. I have it 1-1. I actually had the first fight. I'm a Max Holloway boy, so I had him winning both the fights, but I can see after watching it back how people have them winning the first one. I've watched back the second one 3 times. I have a Max Holloway 3-0 on that one, so I have it 1-1 at those guys. There's no other option, I don't think. Volk is trying to avoid it. You can kind of tell, because he knows that is like obviously the toughest fight. But hopefully the third time we see it, it's going to be a lot more exciting. But that's UFC 273, guys. If you guys enjoy this recap, make sure you guys do drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.